Today is December 23rd, 2023. I am on Wayne. We're doing a sewer camera inspection. We're using a PVC main stack located near the rear foundation wall, and the report is as follows. So here near to the access point, I've got about a 10 to 15 foot section that's going to get us kicked off with brand new concrete. You can see here that I've kind of just shoved the camera just barely into the access and below the floor, and you can see that within sight we've got nothing but PVC to get us started here. So here we've got over here to the right coming in, that is going to be a floor drain that they've added. And continue on, more PVC here, and 15, a little bit further than I was expecting. Here we are at 20 feet almost. And so now we're going to finally see kind of the end of where my concrete is and the clay pipe picking up. So clay pipe more than likely to be original components for this age of home. So a little bit of debris here at the beginning that's not unheard of to be dealt with when we're talking about a new renovation. You know, during that time frame, lots of little chunks and pieces get to go down the drain, but so far I'm not seeing anything that I don't believe will just eventually rinse itself out. All right, so clay pipe is going to be put together in sections, and generally speaking, you're going to see those sections about every 3 feet. We refer to those as hub connections, and basically you have two interlocking portions of sewer line with one end that's kind of bell-shaped and oversized, and one pipe that's kind of straight cut, slides right inside of it, very similar to PVC. Now, the oddity of this situation is that, well, there is no sealant, there's no threads, nothing that really bonds these two pipes together permanently like most modern materials that we're used to, like PVC that gets glue or copper or lead or solder or something of that nature that really kind of puts those pipes together. So these joints are intentionally left loose because we're dealing with a masonry product, and if the ground shifts or moves, these joints allow for us to get a little bit of movement at those areas as well. So, things we're looking at, and the most common places we find cracks or signs that things have shifted or moved are at the joints. And so if you look here, we've got a joint, and as we make the right-hand bend, the bottom of the pipe has got a small hairline crack here in the bottom of it that has formulated, likely because the ground shifted a little bit more there than what the ground would actually allow for, or the pipe would allow for, excuse me. So, you know, that pipe is slightly compromised, but it is just a very small hairline crack at that. So not a huge deal. Now here we've got another one. You can kind of see it. It goes down there to the 6 o'clock up to the 3 o'clock area. And the interesting part is that the areas that I'm showing you, these are within that area of where the hub connection is. So that overlapping bell shape that's on the end of our pipe, that those cracks that we see there is just kind of it torquing or putting some flex on that outside collar onto the interior pipe, and that's where we get that crack. So far, based on what we're seeing here, I'm not terribly concerned about these. I mean, at some point, could they cause some issues? Yes, but I'm also looking for the cracks that are also got some width, and they're also extending a little bit further down the pipe. And, you know, the potential that we may have water that wants to exit those cracks and to go into the soil, which would allow for, you know, subsequent damages because, you know, slowly the soil's being washed away and the pipe's no longer being supported the way it's supposed to. We do have another one here on the left-hand side. Again, very small, very similar to the other ones that I've shown you. We're getting close to the point where we should be exiting our sewer line exiting out into the yard. Now we've got some other additional kind of stress cracks here too. So we've got a pipe coming in the top, maybe a downspout or something of that nature, probably inserting itself into our sewer line because that was common for this age. But you can see there's lots of stress cracking that's happening here, kind of like spider legs coming down around the pipe. This one does bring a little bit more concern to me, especially if this pipe is a downspout, and especially since we're not looking up into it to see if those stress cracks are showing themselves somewhere further upstream. Now, when I think about the front of your house and the inspection portion that I've just completed previous to doing this, Up on the right front, we are using a downspout near the porch that the upper roof drains down to the lower roof on the porch, and then that lower roof goes into that underground drainage pipe. So this has a little bit more heightened awareness, but again, we're still not dealing with areas that are catastrophic, showing imminent failure, showing that if we put somebody inside here to rent or short-term rentals or whatever the plan may be, that this could potentially give us issues with getting our sewage to the street. The other thing that I chuckle a little bit with people about is these cracks that I'm showing you, they didn't just show up last night so I'd have something to talk about with you today. Many of these cracks have likely been here for some time. So basically what this boils down to is there's no chance in a sewer line of this age that you're going to have zero liability. There's always going to be some amount of risk factor. And so, and here's another one here in front of us, here that 77, 75 feet. Another crack shooting up the sides here. Again, very similar to the other ones. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to kind of draw a line on where you want to understand that susceptibility and decide how you want to move forward with that. And what does that look like? Well, I mean, the areas where we have some cracks and broken pipe, we could potentially have some repairs completed. The first one that comes to mind for me is going to be a sewer liner, basically a sleeve that goes inside the pipe. And there is nobody out there that wouldn't tell you that installing a sleeve or a liner on a system of this age would definitely be beneficial. Basically, it's like inserting a PVC pipe inside of our existing clay pipe. And, it's smooth, it's slick. There is no gaps at seams or hub connections. It covers over the cracks and indiscrepancies that I saw today. And it really is a great solution, but it comes at a very expensive cost. And usually somewhere around $160 per foot. And here we show you, I'm at 82 feet, and this is the connection to the city sewer tap. And minus maybe 10 to 15 feet of this, that is all your ownership. And so that's quite a cost and quite an undertaking just to have a preventative type method in place without a real need for repairs necessarily. Now, with that in mind, we can also flip the script and go, look, this pipe wasn't intended to do this. The cracks that I've identified for you today are definitely signs that, okay, the pipe has moved and shifted. And as time continues to go on, well, these situations aren't going to get any better. They only, unfortunately, have the chance of getting worse. And so with that in mind, there is a liability at hand here that needs to be understood, because no one has a crystal ball to tell you if it's going to be 6 days, 6 months, 6 years, or 60 years before some of these cracks start to show something a little bit different in character, which may indicate of a more imminent damage and need for correction. So I'll be given the recommendation that we should have a plumber evaluate this because, well, there's just a reason to have that. But I also, at the same time, try to put into the idea of, where are we at in a priority level? And my idea right now is that my priority level is rather low. Based on what I see here. Again, these look like they've been here for some time. I don't see a chance of them moving, though I don't have a crystal ball. But depending on what your timeline of owning this property or holding on to this property is going to be, is going to also make a difference. Because, I think in the time frame of 5 to 10 years, which is the average homeowner these days. But if you're thinking 25, 30 years, well then, that definitely changes the possibilities that you could encounter during those time frames. So overall, for a house of this age, I would say that this inspection was fairly ordinary or typical. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. The things that we have here, they're not catastrophic. But there is some room for improvement here, I guess is what I'll leave you with. This was Nick